Andre Rozier and Danny Jacobs are a long way from Brownsville out here in San Carlos, California. Can you talk about how they came to work here at the private SNAC facility?
I was originally contacted by Virgil Hunter, and they came out to train at Virgil and his gym over in Hayward. And the first day, it was Virgil and Danny that came here. This is before Andre came. And the original schedule was, in terms of doing hypoxic and hyperoxic training, that they were going to come here for 2 days a week. And gradually throughout the camp, in part I think because Virgil has been traveling for various fights, but they've increased from 3 to 4 to 5, and now they're even here on their off days in the hyperbaric chamber and on recovery days. So pretty much the second half of the camp has been a lot of the time here at the SNAC facility, and they're both great people, and we enjoy having them here.
The thrust of the gym, I mean, it's around oxygen training in a sense.
What we call oxygen modulation training, which means it's different than the traditional low oxygen, simulated altitude type training. We do use low oxygen, but with all the various drills on a skill mill, which is where you sprint on a non-motorized treadmill, as well as in the dome and the heavy bag and so on. We use very high exertion, but we use both low oxygen, hypoxic training, as well as high oxygen or 50% oxygen, which they call it super oxygenation, where you can throw harder and faster punches, and you're basically training the central nervous system and neuromuscular firing system when you're exhausted, or as an example in later rounds of a fight, to throw harder and faster punches. That's the end result we're looking for.
And what about the oxygen tent, where he's doing the active recovery?
Yeah, it's an active recovery. That's also 50% oxygen, and they're on an Airdyne bike. And the reason is because as you exercise, first they'll do the skill mill, and let's say that Danny's heart rate goes up to 180. We calculate 60% of that, or about a heart rate of 110, and that increases the stroke volume, or the amount of blood that is heavily oxygenated from the 50% oxygen compared to sea level. It's normally 20.9, and that circulates throughout the body, and it removes lactic acid, carbon dioxide, ammonia, urea, these metabolic waste byproducts, and he actually does that between sets of training. So we're doing it low oxygen, then recovery and high oxygen, come back and do high oxygen again, and then back into the recovery chamber. So that's why we call it oxygen modulation, because we use both low and high oxygen within the same training session.
How much did you guys alter? I mean, obviously he's doing this extra exercise, but in terms of his diet, he's got Chris Algieri working with him. Did you do anything supplementation-wise?
Yeah, we've done 2 different times. We've tested his blood, and based upon the concentration of the micronutrients and other parameters, this helps us to create the proper training load to recovery interval. So the amount of training and the type of training that he does is based upon the blood test. And then the supplements that he takes ZMA at night, and he takes Expedite, which is a pre-workout product, before he trains. He'll take a special pre-fight SNAC formulation that I've created before the fight. So yes, a lot of the supplements that he takes, Chris is doing more of the cooking and his food and the organic part, and the micronutrients and the supplementation is what's coming from SNAC as a result of the comprehensive testing. And like I say, thus far we've tested his blood and made adjustments accordingly twice thus far this camp.
Where is all this heading? This is the biggest fight you guys have had, and you've been adding to your stable more and more. Are you going to expand the facility, or is it just you like just having one guy?
Well, they've also incorporated Mike Basil, who's the head trainer here at SNAC. Therefore, he will go to New York, and the weight cut and the hyperhydration thereafter, and the pre-fight supplementation, and Basil will also wrap his hands. So Andre and and Danny have become a part of the SNAC family, and they're all in, so to speak, and we have great respect for them, and I think it's the same on their behalf, and so now Mike will play a big role there in New York the week of the fight, and of course he's using the protocols that we've developed over the years since we started working together back in 2010 with Nonito Donaire.
Now, he's not doing Remy training for this one. Is there
He's not doing Remy training. Well, it kind of late in the camp, we thought about introducing it, and for this particular camp, he did want to do that, but we were unable to do that. So he is doing sprint training, but he's doing it here on the skill mill, which is the non-motorized treadmill. And we can add the low oxygen and high oxygen, and we've done that at various throughout the camp. We've had a different mix. As he gets closer to the fight, we're doing all hyperoxic training. In other words, low oxygen is like running with the wind in your face, and hyperoxic is like running with the wind at your back. So you can actually run faster, you can throw harder punches, you can throw faster punches when you're fully oxygenated. The science shows that you're about 10% stronger and 10% faster, and your time to exhaustion is 50% longer. So you really become, from super oxygenation, you become a Superman, so to speak, and you can do things that you can't normally do.
Do you have to shut that down at some point, like the way a fighter would come from altitude?
Yeah, we'll taper him out. He's basically done sparring now, and I don't know that this week he may do some, but typically that acclimation is 10 days, around 10 days out, which, this Saturday, here we are on Tuesday, this will be 7 days out, so we're about 10 days out now. So basically, he's just doing sharp type work and light stuff. All the heavy stuff was done, for the last 7 weeks.
The last thing, just, Triple G is at 8,000 feet, I believe. That's where Big Bear or something.
That's about 6,700.
Okay, 6,700. But he's always there, and it doesn't modulate. He does come down the hill at a certain point, but is there an advantage having what you have, and that you can tailor it?
No question that what we're doing is far superior to what they do up at Big Bear or the Olympic Training Center around 7,000 feet. And the reason is it's well known and scientifically documented that you simply do not sleep well at low oxygen or high elevation. So your recovery is not as good. So you want to train with low oxygen, and you want to sleep at sea level and get your heart rate to come down and maximize healing and tissue repair, which is what we're about. We've got a hyperoxic chamber here. He's sleeping here at sea level, getting a deep and restful sleep. And that's just something that doesn't happen. Scientifically, it's been proven that you lose muscle size, power, and speed by training at elevation. Now, it's crazy because everybody knows that Triple G is a hell of a puncher. But the science is that this is a more effective way to do it by having both and being able to sleep and recover better at sea level.
So the longer you're up there, the diminishing returns, essentially. It's going to wear
Yeah, there's a
out.
benefit in terms of increasing the number and size of red blood cells, and that
Sure.
helps with oxygen uptake and utilization. But at the same time, you're lessening power output and speed. And I don't think it's worth that sacrifice. And he's getting from the sprint interval training here, he's getting that stamina and endurance benefit as well. So we're able to do more here than you can. When you're up there, you're pretty much stuck with when you go to sprint or throw hard punches or do any sort of high exertion work, your output is about 85% of what it is here at sea level. So to me, that's a real negative. I never have understood why they built the Olympic Training Center at altitude either. And I know a lot of guys that go there and they wake up and find blood in their pillow and stuff at night. It's an issue. Low oxygen causes sleep disturbances, and that's the last thing that a boxer needs.